You are living in modern slavery, and you don't know it. Your time is rented, your attention is sold, your desires are trained, and your fear keeps you obedient. The disturbing part? Most people defend the cage they live in. That may sound extreme, so let me be clear. This is not about a secret system controlling you from the outside. It is about something quieter. How modern life teaches you to run away from yourself. Think of a small creature running for its life. Weaker, smaller, always one step away from being swallowed. It hides, it dodges, it survives. And somehow, we enjoy watching it. For a brief moment, the small thing gets away, and we feel relief. So maybe we are not just watching a little mouse escape a cat. Maybe we are watching ourselves. Fromm says people would not keep watching this same theme again and again unless it touched something very close to their own emotional life. Because modern life often feels like being chased by work, competition, money, status, deadlines, the fear of falling behind. You keep moving, adjusting, and escaping. Each time you escape, you tell yourself, I'm fine. But Fromm sees something sad in this happy ending. The small creature is saved mostly by his ability to run away and by accidents that stop the monster from catching him. It does not truly become strong. The world does not change. The chase simply begins again. And this is where the real question begins. What if modern people have become very good at escaping, but not very good at becoming themselves? We care so much about how others see us that, little by little, we lose touch with who we really are. And when there is no strong self to carry that freedom becomes too heavy to bear. So we escape into approval, into performance, into success, into becoming the kind of person others can recognize, reward, and accept. This video is about how a person who looks free can slowly learn to run away from freedom itself, and what it would take to find a way back. To understand this escape, we have to begin with the thing we think we want most: freedom. More freedom does not always make life feel lighter. Sometimes it only gives you more ways to question yourself. Modern man is, of course, more free than before. Freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom to choose a career, a city, a relationship, a way of life. These freedoms are real, but freedom also creates a new problem. For most people in traditional societies, life was far more fixed. Your family, religion, social class, village, and tradition often told you who you were, what you could become, and where you belonged. That world could be narrow, it could be harsh, it could leave very little room for the individual. So the point is not that the past was better. The point is that older ways of life often gave people a clear place in the world. Modern freedom loosens those old bonds. It gives the individual more room, but it also removes many of the structures that used to hold him in place. So the modern person faces a new burden. He has to decide who he is, not once, again and again. Think of someone who finishes school, moves to a new city, starts a career, builds a social life, and tries to become someone. From the outside, this looks like freedom, and in many ways it is. But inside, it can feel strangely unstable, because now he has to choose. He has to show himself, prove himself, explain himself, and keep proving that his life makes sense. This is why freedom can become lonely. A person may have more options than before, but less of an inner center strong enough to choose from. He may be free to choose a life, but he may not really know who is making the choice. And when his sense of self is not strong enough, freedom does not feel like pure possibility. It feels like exposure. So he begins to look for something outside himself to hold him together. A job title, a salary, a reputation, a public image, a feeling that he matters, a feeling that he is recognized by others. These things can support a person's life, but they can also become substitutes for a strong inner self. And when they are shaken, the person does not only lose external security, he may feel as if he is losing himself. This is where modern freedom becomes unstable. The individual is free, but he is also anxious, isolated, and unsure what his freedom is supposed to rest on. But freedom becomes even more complicated when the choices themselves may not be as free as they appear. Modern people are constantly told that they are free to choose, and to some extent, we are. We choose what to buy, what to believe, how to present ourselves, what kind of life we want to build. But before we ask what we choose, there is a deeper question. Where did the desire come from? Did I really choose it? Or did I learn to want it before it felt like mine? This is where advertising becomes important. Advertising is one of the clearest examples of how desire is shaped before it feels like our own. Modern advertising does not only sell things, it teaches people what to want. It shows us what kind of life looks desirable, what kind of person looks successful, and what kind of person we should admire. Modern advertising does not appeal to reason, but to emotion. That is exactly how it works. It does not begin with careful thinking. It begins with a feeling, a small dissatisfaction, a sense that your life, your image, or your future could be improved. You see a life online, a cleaner apartment, a better body, a more confident face, a more effortless version of success, and suddenly your own life feels unfinished. Then something is offered to you, a product, a course, a lifestyle, a new version of yourself. But what is being sold is often not just a thing, it is an image of who you could become. This is why Fromm compares advertising to hypnoid suggestion. It reaches our emotions first. Only afterwards do we build reasons around the feeling. We say, I chose this, I wanted this is my taste, this is who I am. But sometimes the desire has already been prepared for us. That is why modern choice can be so difficult to question. It does not feel like pressure, it feels like preference. It does not feel like obedience. It feels like self-expression. And the same pattern can happen outside advertising too. In politics, career goals, social life, and even identity, we may be given choices that feel personal, while the framework itself has already been shaped by forces larger than us. A person may be offered a choice between candidates, but the candidates themselves are not really of his choosing. He is asked for his preference. He is made to feel important, but the deeper structure is still not really under his control. So the problem is not that modern people do not make choices. The problem is that we may be choosing within a framework we did not create. And if our desires have already been shaped from the outside, then the question is no longer simply, can I choose? The deeper question is, where did the desire come from? Did I choose it? Or was it planted before I ever noticed it? If someone else taught me what to want, how much of the choice is actually mine? And once our desires are shaped from the outside, even the way we love ourselves can become distorted. The problem does not stay in advertising or politics. It begins to shape our character, how we relate to others, and even how we relate to ourselves. Modern society teaches the individual to compete, to protect his position, to make himself useful, desirable, and marketable. So at first glance, it can look as if modern man loves himself too much. He is self-interested, ambitious, competitive, always trying to get more. So can we say that modern man has too much self-love? Not really. The distinction is crucial. Selfishness is not the same as self-love. In fact, selfishness may come from the very absence of self-love. A good way to see this is greed. Greed looks like wanting too much, but underneath, it often comes from not feeling enough. Fromm writes, greed is a bottomless pit which exhausts the person in an endless effort to satisfy the need without ever reaching satisfaction. The greedy person keeps reaching for more success, more recognition, more control. But the need is never fully satisfied because the hunger is not really about the thing itself. It comes from a deeper lack. This is why selfishness can be so misleading. From the outside, the selfish person seems to put himself first. He protects his interests. He wants more for himself. So it is easy to think this person simply loves himself too much. But the opposite may be true. Fromm says, it is not that he is fond of himself, but that he deeply dislikes himself. The problem is not too much self-love. The problem is too little. Selfishness is rooted in the very lack of fondness for oneself. The selfish person is not necessarily someone with a strong self. He may be someone whose relation to himself is deeply insecure. He grabs because he cannot rest. He takes because he does not feel fulfilled. And this also changes how we understand narcissism. You may know someone like this. They always need more attention, more proof, more reassurance. But the more they get, the less secure they seem. If you do not reply quickly enough, they feel abandoned. If you do not admire them enough, they feel invisible. If you have your own life, your own needs, your own freedom, they may experience it as a threat. From the outside, this can look like self-love. The person seems absorbed in himself, hungry for admiration, unable to bear being ignored. But this too may be compensation. Fromm says, their narcissism, like selfishness, is an overcompensation for the basic lack of self-love. On the surface, narcissism looks like self-love, but underneath lies something very different. Without constant admiration, attention, or approval, the narcissistic person struggles to feel secure in who he is. For this reason, narcissism is not the opposite of inner emptiness. It is often a response to it. Fromm says, he loves neither others nor himself. The narcissistic person has not simply redirected love from others toward himself. The deeper problem is that his capacity to love has been damaged. His relation to others is distorted, and his relation to himself is distorted too. This makes the idea of love much more demanding. Love is not just a feeling that suddenly appears when the right person shows up. It is first a capacity, a way of relating to the world. Fromm writes, love is not primarily caused by a specific object, but a lingering quality in a person which is only actualized by a certain object. In other words, love is a capacity within the person, a way of being related to the world. A certain object may awaken it. A certain person may bring it into life, but the object does not create it from nothing. So the question is not only, have I found the right person? The deeper question is, am I capable of love? Can I care for another person without using them to make myself feel less afraid? Can I let them grow without always needing to keep them close, dependent, or under my control? Then Fromm's definition of love becomes very clear. Love is a passionate affirmation of an object. It is not an effect, but an active striving and inner relatedness, the aim of which is the happiness, growth, and freedom of its object. The happiness, growth, and freedom of its object. That is the difficult part. If what I call love cannot bear the other person's freedom, if it only wants to possess, control, or be reassured, then it may be attachment, it may be dependence, it may be fear. But in this sense, it is not love. And this brings us back to freedom. A person who cannot stand on his own cannot easily allow another person to be free. If he needs another person to hold himself together, then love can quietly become control. The crisis of modern freedom does not stop at work, politics, advertising, or consumption. It also appears in intimate relationships, in desire, in the ways we use other people to protect ourselves from the fear that we are not enough on our own. And from here, the argument moves to the most devastating form of alienation. Not only the alienation between one person and another, but the alienation between the individual and his own self. But the deepest danger is not only that we lose others, it is that we begin to lose contact with ourselves. The word alienation can sound abstract, but here, it does not simply mean loneliness. It means that something that should feel close to you begins to feel disconnected from you. Something that should feel like part of your own life starts to feel distant, strange, almost outside of you. And the most painful form of this is not only becoming distant from other people, it is becoming distant from yourself. For Fromm, the most devastating instance of this spirit of instrumentality and alienation is the individual's relationship to his own self. This is where the problem turns inward. The way we learn to value things in the outside world slowly becomes the way we value ourselves. We begin to ask not only what something is, but what it can do, what it is worth, whether it is useful, whether it is wanted. And before long, we start asking the same questions about ourselves. A person no longer asks only, "Who am I?" He begins to ask, "What am I worth? How am I seen? Am I useful? Am I impressive enough? Am I still valuable in the eyes of others? Instead of living from within himself, he begins to look at himself from the outside. The self becomes something to manage, improve, present, and eventually sell. At this point, the argument is no longer only about society, it becomes personal. Man does not only sell commodities, he sells himself and feels himself to be a commodity. Modern man does not only live in a market, he begins to feel himself as something placed on the market. His value seems to depend less on the fact that he is alive and more on whether he is chosen, approved of, and wanted. This is not difficult to see. Think of a job interview. You do not only present your skills, you present a personality, confident, pleasant, flexible, motivated, easy to work with. Think of social media. You do not only share moments from your life, you learn to package yourself, your taste, your face, your opinions, your lifestyle, even your vulnerability. Everything can become part of the image. Fromm says, the manual laborer sells his physical energy. The businessman, the physician, the clerical employee sell their personality. Personality. That is the disturbing word. A person does not only sell time, skill, or effort. He begins to sell a version of himself. His confidence, his charm, his intelligence, his ability to appear competent, adaptable, desirable, and easy to approve of. So the question changes. It is no longer only, can I do this work? It becomes, am I the kind of person people want? And this is where alienation becomes intimate. The self is no longer something you simply feel from inside. Instead, you begin to watch yourself from the outside, almost as a product. Fromm says, as with any other commodity, it is the market which decides the value of these human qualities. Yes, even their very existence. If the world rewards your confidence, confidence feels real. If the world rewards your productivity, productivity feels valuable. But if it does not reward your sensitivity, your quietness, your slowness, your way of seeing, then you may begin to doubt those parts of yourself, not because they do not exist, but because the world has not reflected their value back to you. This is how the market enters the self. It does not only tell us what kind of work matters, it begins to tell us what kind of person matters. And when this happens, self-confidence becomes fragile. Thus, the self-confidence, the feeling of self, is merely an indication of what others think of the person. This is the collapse of inner ground. Self-confidence no longer comes from within. It becomes a reading of the outside world. If others admire him, he feels secure. If others want him, he feels valuable. If others ignore him, he begins to disappear from himself. This is alienation at its deepest. He becomes both the seller and the product being sold, both the person and the advertisement of the person. And once this happens, freedom becomes unstable. Because how can I be free if I no longer belong to myself? How can I choose freely if even my desires have been shaped for me? The small creature keeps running because it cannot afford to be caught. Modern man keeps running because he cannot afford to become nobody. But if he spends his whole life performing, selling, and waiting to be confirmed from the outside, then the danger is not only that he loses freedom, it is that he loses contact with the person who is supposed to live it. And this is why escape can look so normal from the outside. It can look like work, success, relationships, entertainment, and a full calendar. And this is where the argument reaches its darkest point. The problem is not only that modern man is isolated, it is that he often cannot afford to know how isolated he is. If he saw it too clearly, if he felt too directly how small, powerless, and unsupported he really is, the experience would be almost unbearable. Fromm quotes Julian Green, "We peer down into a huge dark abyss, and we are afraid." That is the image, not ordinary sadness, not a passing mood, but the feeling of standing at the edge of something dark and enormous, something we cannot look at for too long. So most of the time, we do not look at it. But the fear does not disappear. It is simply covered over by work, by success, by relationships, by entertainment, by plans. Fromm puts it with painful precision. It is too frightening for that. It is covered over by the daily routine of his activities. by the assurance and approval he finds in his private or social relations, by success in business, by any number of distractions, by having fun, making contacts, going places. This is not difficult to understand. A life can look completely normal and still be an escape. You can be busy, productive, social, entertained, always going somewhere, always doing something, and still be avoiding the one thing you most need to face. That is why this sentence cuts so deeply. But whistling in the dark does not bring light. You can whistle in the dark to steady yourself. You can keep yourself busy so the silence feels less frightening. But the whistle does not create light. The darkness does not disappear. It only becomes easier to avoid. And this is the limit of escape. Freedom is not only the removal of external chains, it also requires an inner self strong enough to live without those chains. If that self has not grown, freedom does not feel like openness. It feels like exposure. And when exposure becomes too frightening, people look for ways out. But every escape has a cost. Every time a person runs away from freedom, he also moves farther away from the possibility of becoming himself. So the question is not simply, how do we get more freedom? The harder question is, what kind of self would be able to live it? And maybe this is where a small opening remains. Because the self does not grow only in ideal conditions. Sometimes it begins in the very place where life feels most limited. It begins when a person can still say, I want to understand. I do not want to become numb. I do not want to live only by pleasing, performing, producing, and surviving. I want to keep a window open. Maybe this is only a beginning, but a beginning matters because freedom, in its deeper sense, is not simply having more choices. It is becoming someone who no longer has to run from himself.